everybody turning those quizzes in. And we're going to do a couple of things today. We're going to start with a quick recap of what we learned yesterday. And then we're going to tack some stuff onto that. And then we're going to do a little bit of review. So, try to pull it all together. But let's back up. What did we do yesterday? Let's try another problem with no calculator. And let's raise root 3 minus I to the 6th power. All right, so let's just pause for a second. How do I even start? What?
Change it to polar.
Change it to polar form, otherwise known as trigonometric form, right? So how do I do that? How do I change this number into polar form? Polar form means what do I need? R and theta. So I got my x and y. So what will my R be? 2. And if I'm not letting you use a calculator, this has to be special. Do you recognize it? That's a 30. So your number is 2 CIS, don't say 30. 330. Raised to the 6th power. Everybody good so far? Now, how does DeMoivre's theorem work? How do we raise this thing to the 6th power? We do it in a snap. 2 to the 6th, 64, CIS, 330 times 6, 1980. Now, tell me about that. It's way too big, right? So I got to take 1980 and I'm going to pull out 1440. Shoot, it's still too big, so I'll take out another 360. Does that go all the way down to 180? Now, that is the answer if you are allowed to answer in polar form. Usually, if it starts in rectangular form, you're going to be asked to answer it in rectangular form. So this is okay for the polar form answer. But what if we need the complex form, or the standard form, or the rectangular form, or the Cartesian form? What if we need that form? What do we need to do? We need to find x and y. We need x plus yi. And how do we find x and y? You did it on your quiz, right? X equals 64 cosine 180 and 64 sine 180. Now again, no calculator. So we can do this without a calculator. What do I do with 180? Where's 180? On the line, somebody said. It's right here. What's the cosine of 180? -1. So this is 64 times -1, which is -64. What's the sine of 180? 0. So this is 64 times 0, or 0i. You can write just -64 if you want. Now, are there any steps of that problem that you're not comfortable with? GTQ right there, guaranteed test question. Okay, so now we're going to take this one step further. We're going to do the same thing except we're going to find the cube roots of -4 minus 4 root 3i. Now, you might be thinking, oh, what do you mean this is the same thing, Mrs. Ford? This is a totally different problem. It's really not, because you remember from way back when, I don't even remember what chapter, that cube rooting something means raising it to a power. What power is the cube root?
3.
Not the third, the 1/3. So the problem we are doing now is this. We are raising to the 1/3 power. Now, did you notice the plural on that question? In a cube root problem, there are 3 answers. So we're going to be finding 3 answers. In a 4th root problem, there are 4. In a 5th root, there are 5, and so on. So whatever root you are taking, that's how many answers you're going to have. All right, a little bit scary. Don't be scared. The first answer comes exactly the way you just found the last one. Okay? So what are we going to do? How are we going to start this problem? We're going to find r and theta. So -4 minus 4 root 3. Remember, I'm trying to do this without a calculator because there will be a no calculator part of your test.
60.
When is the test?
I don't know, I'll look in a minute here.
-1, you got root 3.
Okay, somebody said I see a 60 here, and you are right. If you said I see a 60, you're right. What's my hypotenuse or my radius? 8. Very good. 8. 8. So this number in polar form is 8 CIS, be careful, 8 CIS 240?
No.
They're unleashed.
Remember, those of you still struggling with the 8, when you square this, you get 16 times 3, which is 48, plus 16, 64, square root of 64 is 8. Now, is this the answer? No, no. Sometimes we get so excited that we've done this work that we forget we still need to raise it to the 1/3 power, don't we? What do we get when we raise that to the 1/3 power? 2. How'd we get 2? 8 to the 1/3 means the cube root of 8, and then CIS 80. Perfect. Answer number 1 done. And we did it exactly the same way we've done every other problem we've raised to a power. We took the radius to the power, we took the angle times the power. Now, there are 2 more answers. To find them, it's very, very simple. If I were going to graph the 3 answers of the problem on my polar graph paper, you know, if I were going to graph them, they would be evenly spaced like the spokes of a wheel. If there are 3 answers and they are going to be evenly spaced, how far apart will they be? 120. Let's let that digest for a minute. There are 3 answers. They're always going to be evenly spaced, no matter how many there are. They'll be evenly spaced. There are 3 of them, so they're 120 degrees apart. If the first one is at 80, then where's the second one? 200. And where's the third one? 320. Now, little built-in check here. Let's suppose you went one more. If you lost track of how many you'd written down and you went one more, the next one would be 2 CIS what? 440? Wait a minute, what did we learn yesterday about 440? It's too big. So you would shrink it down, right? And what happens when you shrink down 440? It equals 80. So that's like your little built-in check. If you go one too many, it should bring you back to the one you started with. Okay? Let's try another one. Oh, by the way, these answers are in what form? Polar form. If we wanted them in rectangular form, could we get them there?
Yes.
Yes, but not without a calculator, because these angles aren't special. I could do all this without a calculator, but the next step I would need a calculator for. All right, let's try another one.
Mrs. Ford, can you still do the 2, sign or with that, or because it has an I? Does that not make a difference?
No. You would still, to find x, you would do 2 cosine 80.
Okay, you still
2
do that.
sine 80, yep. Okay, let's find the fifth root of
I'm not afraid to show it. I'm not afraid. We're bandits. No more wearing bandages.
Hey, man. Every once in a while, you gotta make a statement.
No.
Okay, here we go. Scary looking problem, no calculator, we can do this.
Do it.
I'm gonna do what?
Step 1,
1/5.
we want to figure out r and theta, so here we go. Negative 16 root 2, negative 16 root 2. There's a method to my madness here. What's that radius?
Where 32?
Well, it's just 32. Yeah, it's just 32. The radius is just 32. Remember, kids, in a 45, 45, 90 triangle, whoa, how do I know that's a 45, 45, 90? Two sides match? In a 45, 45, 90 triangle, the hypotenuse is always root 2 times the legs. So if I multiply the legs by root 2, I get 32. I could also do the Pythagorean theorem. This angle's 45, meaning what's my reference, or what's my actual theta then? Everybody okay with that so far? Now, that is not the answer. That is the thing that you are going to raise to the 1/5 power. Does everybody understand why I'm raising to the 1/5? Yes, 5th roots. Okay, what's answer number 1? 2 CIS 45. That's beautiful.
Oh.
How many answers are there? 5. Since there are 5 answers, how far apart will they be? 72 degrees. So if the first one is at 45, the next one would be at 72, 117 and 189. Keep an eye on my arithmetic, please.
Got my eyes on you.
261. 353. okay? Now, a couple days ago,
Wasn't for either voice.
I told you what our end goal was. I said by the end of the week, we're gonna be able to do a certain problem. Did anybody happen to write that down? I can't remember what it was. Was it the square root of
Not the preparation.
cubic root?
Where is it? Costume.
No, we did that one
Are you alright, man?
already. Because you were thinking that we were gonna make our goals.
I feel like you know it.
Oh, there it is. 8 minus 8.
I want to talk about it.
There you go.
8 minus 8, 3i.
Three and four is eight.
And with the cube roots.
Fatal problem.
Oh, besides find the fifth root.
Yeah, I did it wrong.
Well, we just did that.
Actually, you did.
So let's do something different. We basically just did that one. Okay, let's try this. Let's suppose
Did it wrong.
on your quiz, or test, or quest, or whatever it is, you find this problem. Would you be able to now do this problem? Yep. What does a square root mean? 1/2. So we're raising 3 minus 4i to the 1/2 power. By the way, this one we're going to answer in complex form. So we'll definitely need a calculator. All right, what do I do? How do I even get started? Change it into polar form. So my radius is 5, and my angle I need some help on. I got 306.87.
It's really thick.
Double check that and make sure you agree. Now, we're going to raise that to the 1/2 power. How many answers am I going to get? 2. And the first one, I'm going to get straight from DeMoivre. So that'll be 5 to the 1/2, otherwise known as what? Square root of 5. So if you'd rather write square root of 5, that's fine. So 5 to the 1/2, CIS, 153.43. How am I going to get the other answer? Just add 180. So I have 5 to the 1/2, CIS 333.43. Everybody with me? By the way, you know, you're taking square roots of i's, kids. That's pretty impressive. You're acting like this is no big deal, but that's a pretty big deal. Now, we need to get these guys into complex form. How do we do that? How do we find x and y? R cosine theta and R sine theta, right? So we're going to take the square root of 5 times the cosine of 153.43. I got basically -2. And then the square root of 5 times the sine. Tell me if you're matching me. Oh.
Just take it all, just erase it all.
These are not ordered pairs, these are numbers.
Oh, Oh, it doesn't like your pop. I want to see
Who would have thunk it? The square root of 3 minus 4i is negative 2 plus I and 2 minus I. Pretty neat. Annabelle, you wouldn't have to worry about studying during prayer if you paid more attention during class.
My book was closed. Your what was closed?
After I screamed about it,
Screamed at me?
all of you.
I don't know why you're calling me out.
I'm calling you out because you're talking.
Okay, sorry.
Let's find our practice sheets, our packet of stuff. We should now be able to do every problem on the sheet called brief recap. So I think it's the second sheet. It's called brief recap. And we'll be having a test over all this next Wednesday.
If I'm on retreat, or someone's on retreat, please take it before or after.
If you are going on retreat, you might want to consider taking it Tuesday right after school. There'll be plenty of time. They never leave until like 5 or something, so it's plenty of time to get. Otherwise, you have to take it sometime the week you get back, and that, you know, who knows how much you'll remember and whatever. You might just consider that. Okay, so you find brief recap. Let's go down to number 8 because there's a little bit of vocabulary, or not vocabulary, but like notation there I want to make sure we're clear on. So if we go down to problem number 8, we've been given a couple of numbers in trigonometric form. And we're asked several things. We're asked to multiply them. Okay, that's not hard. We learned this yesterday. How do we multiply them?
15.
15.
CIS.
CIS.
Add them up.
120. Add them up. That's right. That's it. Now how about division? 3/5. CIS negative 20. Oh, wait a minute. What about negative 20? Not allowed to have it. So we'll rewrite it as a positive coterminal angle, which would be 340. Now, C is the new notation. That bar over the top is the notation for conjugate. Now, when we talk about conjugates, give me an example. Give me an example of conjugates. 4 plus 3i and 4 minus 3i. 4 plus 3i, 4 minus 3i. Those are conjugates, right? Now, what does that mean for polar form, though? Well, here, I want you to graph these. If you graph 4 plus 3i, doesn't it look like this? It's over 4 up 3, and its radius would be 5, and its angle would be something that we could figure out. 4 minus 3i would go over 4 and down 3. What would its radius be? Still 5. And tell me about this angle and this angle. They're the same, only this one is positive and this one is negative, right? So if I want the conjugate of this number, I know the radius is the same and the angle is just negative. So the conjugate would be 3 CIS negative 50. Which of course you can't have negative 50, so you would write it as 3 CIS 310. That's the conjugate. So summarize, the conjugate of a number in polar form has the same radius and the opposite angle. So instead of positive 50, it has negative 50. Everybody clear on that? It's easy enough, okay. And then, what does this notation always mean? Magnitude, length. So let's go back to Z sub 1, which is 3 CIS 50. If you graphed that number, it would be on the circle with a radius of 3 at an angle of 15, right? Or 50, I mean, 50. So it would look like this. How long is that number? 3. The magnitude is just the radius. Okay. The hardest problem on the whole paper, I think, is number 6. So let's take a quick look at number 6. What do we mean by Cartesian equation? What variables does it have to have? X and Y. Okay? We did a couple of these the other day. Does anybody remember how we started? Kind of had a procedure. Take care of the function first. So what is sine? By definition, what is sine? Y over R. So take out the sine and replace it with Y over R. Now, when you do that, no matter what function is in your problem, you're going to have a fraction. So do you remember now as it's starting to come back? What's the next thing we do? Get rid of the fraction. So in this case, multiply by R. R squared is the same as x squared plus y squared. Now look at that equation. What were the directions again? Write as a Cartesian equation. Have I done it? Yep, my variables are all x's and y's. I'm done. Now, could I mess around with that and do stuff to it? Absolutely, but you don't need to. The directions said get x's and y's. Okay? 7 says rewrite as a polar equation. That is much easier than this because x is r cosine and y is r sine, and you're done. Remember, if we're writing as a polar equation, that means we have to have r's and thetas. And since we know x equals r cosine and y equals r sine, that's it. We just substitute it in and we're done. Let's go up to number 2. Harry and Harvey. I am going to come back there and I don't know what I'm going to do, but it's going to not. It could get us all in trouble.
All of us in trouble? Wait, why would I be in trouble at the end of this?
You're in trouble at the beginning of it, Harry.
Well, but at the end of it, you're in trouble. So I feel like you come back and your benefit's me. It's blackmail.
All right, we're going to change this into polar coordinates. Now, that's easy. What do polar coordinates mean?
R and theta.
R and theta. We've been doing that all morning. You draw a picture of it, find R and theta. So R would be the square root of 41. What are you doing? Okay. Deep breath, calm down. We're going to find this angle. Okay? So how do we find that angle? Well, we've done it over and over again. Just remember to add 180 to it. So second tangent plus 180. Did you get 218.66? These are the polar coordinates for this ordered pair. Is everybody clear on that? But did you notice the little thing over here that said R has to be negative? Groupies, R never comes out negative. It will always be positive. If you need it to be negative, you have to do an extra step. And making R negative means what to the angle? Across 180 degrees. So it would go back to 38.66. So this, both of these are the same point. They are both absolutely correct. But because of this, we need this form right here. Okay, what does rectangular form mean? How do you get x? 3 cosine 110, 3 sine 110. Just write your answer as x plus yi.
Banana juice hard, honestly. It's something. Oh, yeah. Come on back to it. It's going to be banana flavored.
That's not bad, though.
And I would
Okay.
Did he eat the butt?
All right. What are the 4 classical curves? John, you can go ahead and turn this off. What are the 4 classical curves?